Hi everyone, my name is Cassie, and today I'm going to be featuring some of the books that you saw listed on today's spreadsheet to help you get a better look at some of the books and make some decisions before submitting your order today. So, the first book that I'm going to start with is one of my favorites. It's called The Proudest Blue, and it was written by the first American to wear a hijab in the Olympics. So, it's about a girl named Asaya and her having the courage to wear a hijab and be proud of who she is. So she's wearing the first day hijab and chooses this beautiful blue. Another thing that I really love about this story is the representation of characters and the realistic moments it has. So on this page, you can see that these students are asking questions to Asaya's sister, wondering what she's wearing on her head. So I think this is a very normal thing that kids would have if they've never seen a hijab before. This book also has a strong message showing that Asaya is still the same person wearing the scarf and not wearing the scarf. The hijab is just a symbol of her cultural practices. So the next book that I'm going to feature is called Jalapeno Bagels. So this story is actually very simple, but it showcases mixed cultures of a boy named Pablo who is Hispanic and Jewish. His family owns a bakery, and Pablo is faced with a challenge to decide on a treat to bring to school for International Day. So throughout the story, he thinks of all these Mexican or Hispanic treats that he might want to bring. So he thinks about bringing empanadas or chango bars. So in the book, it also has a list of Hispanic treats that students may have not heard of before. In the end, Pablo decides to bring jalapeno bagels, as you can see here, because it is a mix of his mother and his father. So it just held the message to be proud of your heritage and share it with others. The next book is called Parker Looks Up. So, the author of this book is actually a 3-year-old girl who experienced an extraordinary moment while visiting a museum. So, this is based off a true story because here is Parker Curry, the author of the book. So, when she visits this museum and sees the painting of Michelle Obama, which you can see here, she sees all the possibilities for herself. So, you can see how mesmerized she is, thinking of all of these things that she could be. So this book just really shows the importance and value of students seeing themselves not only in books, but other positions of power, just as we saw with Parker seeing the painting of Michelle Obama. The next book is called Marisol McDonald Doesn't Match. So Marisol is actually a biracial girl who just doesn't fit in at school, and she loves to be mismatched. So her clothes are mismatched, the games that she plays are mismatched, the things she eats are mismatched, and she just really embraces her uniqueness and doesn't like things that are boring when everything goes together like peanut butter and jelly. So the illustrations are just filled with color, and it has great representation among characters. Throughout the book, Marisol decides to try and be normal and be like the rest of the kids in her class, and she just thinks it's kind of boring, which you can see her kind of sulking here. But at the end of the book, she embraces her uniqueness again and finds a puppy who is mismatched just like her. So another thing that I love about this book is that it's dual language, so it's written in English and Spanish as well. The next book is called Those Shoes. So this book focuses on socioeconomics. So this boy named Jeremy wants these shoes that all of his kids in his class have, but unfortunately he needs new boots for winter and his grandmother cannot afford to buy him the latest shoes like everyone else. So he actually ends up finding this pair of black and white shoes at a secondhand store, and they don't fit him, so they're too small. But at the end of the book, he sees a kid in his class who has holes in his shoes, and what Jeremy ends up doing is he ends up giving the shoes to that student. So I really like how this book shows students how they can stay humble and focus on what is really important in life. The themes of this book are also really great, showing a good job of what students experience if they don't have the latest trend being made fun of, as we can see here with Jeremy and all these other students looking at him and laughing at him because he doesn't have the shoes that they have. The next story is called The Day You Begin. This story is so powerful. I really just think it shares that familiar feeling of feeling like an outsider amongst your peers. And I think many of our students also feel this way. And this book really validates those feelings and shows them that they can be brave and connect with others on the day that they choose to begin, just like Angelina shows in this book. This book has various representations and the illustrations of characters and shows how identities and experiences can make us unique. I really like this page because you can see that this girl just feels like an outsider, and most times when we feel like an outsider, like everyone is staring at us and we just don't fit in. But in the end of this book, Angelina actually ends up finding friends and sees how her uniqueness can connect with other people even though she didn't feel like that at first. I really like this book for community building in the classroom and showing students to embrace who they are and that they can still find those connections even when they're different. So the next book is called Just Like a Mama, and it features an African-American girl named Carol Olivia who can no longer live with her parents. So her parents live far away and she ends up living with Mama Rose. So this story is very simplistic and just shows all of the things that a mama does. So here we see Mama Rose showing Carol Olivia how to make her bed, how to dribble a basketball. So it just goes on to list all those things that we think when we think of a mama. So Carol Olivia actually ends up finding her new home with Mama Rose and loves her just like a mama. So this book is just filled with love, kindness, and lots of care. The next book is called The Festival of Colors. So this book is so colorful, and right on the cover you can see it just like grasps your attention with everything going on. It shows the culture of two kids from India who are getting ready for a festival known as Holi. So here they're just gathering some flowers because this is what they make the powders to throw out of on the day of the festival. They just look like regular kids who are just excited and preparing for the festival. And here you just see everyone gathering together and celebrating, throwing the colors all over their white clothes to represent new beginnings, friendship, and forgiveness. So I really like how this book exposes us to a culture that we may not have seen before and a festival that people from India celebrate. The next book is called The Other Side. It is written by famous author Jacqueline Woodson, and this book actually takes place during the time of segregation. So right in the cover, we see an African-American girl and a white girl being separated by a fence, and they're not allowed to be friends just because of the color of their skin. So you can just see that they're just longing to play with each other, but because of segregation during this time, they could not. So this book just shows the power of friendship and how the color of one's skin doesn't matter. And actually in the end of this book, the girls end up becoming friends. So you can see here that they're sitting on the fence together, and they can remove the fence and barriers that keep them apart. So I think this message is just so simple and really important to share with students because they can actually take away barriers that keep them from being friends with other people. The next book is called Chef Roy Choi. So this nonfiction book is really different and has such an inspiring message. So Roy, who we see on the cover, is Korean with the love to cook and wants to share it with people who enjoy being in the streets and enjoy soulful food. So I really like how the illustrations in this book, they're kind of graphic and look like graffiti. They're like graffiti inspired, just like you would see on the streets of LA, which is actually where this book takes place. So this book actually shows that no matter who you are or how much you have, you can make an impact in the world around you, just like Roy did after he found his place in the streets of LA. The next book is called The Vast Wonder of the World. So, this is also a nonfiction book about African American scientist Ernest Everett Just. So, in this book, we see the challenges he faced being African American as it takes place during the time of systemic racism. And it shows how he was able to overcome through following his passion and just using what he had in that moment, like his resources. So I really love how in the book we see his various accomplishments through detailed illustrations and how it sends the message to students that if they have a passion and a dream to work hard and make it happen. The next book is called A Map into the World. So this book features a Hmong American girl and her family who moved to a new home. So the girl's name is Paj Natab, and she actually faces loss and new beginnings. So she gains two new twin brothers in this book, and she also feels very lost once these two new brothers come. So throughout the story, the seasons are changing, and she slowly begins to create her own map into the world through new friendships, family, love, and loss. So I like how this story shows a Hmong girl feeling lost and how she's able to find her place, as we can all relate to the same feeling despite our differences. The next story is called We Are Grateful, Hasta la Haliga. So this author of the book is actually American Indian and is part of the Cherokee Nation. So this is an example of a book that the author was using her own voice. It's a dual language book, being in English and Cherokee. So it shows the modern lifestyle of Cherokee Nation. This book is more informational, showing how the Cherokee Nation lives through simplistic writing and beautiful illustrations. So here you can see lots of people gathering. There's lots of color. Same here. So I really like how this book removes stereotypes of how students might think American Indians live. So the last book that I'm going to feature today is called Hello Goodbye Dog, featuring an African-American girl named Zara who is in a wheelchair and all of her abilities and the things that she's able to do. So she has a dog named Moose, which we see here, and he does not like goodbyes and just wants to be with Zara all day long. So Zara thinks of some ways where she doesn't have to leave Moose and ends up getting Moose trained to become a service dog so he can always be with her. So I really just love how this story focuses on the love between Zara and Moose, and it's just a cute, fun story to share in your classroom. I hope you enjoyed watching all of the books today, and if you have any questions about books that were not featured, feel free to contact me via Google Meet sometime this afternoon. Thanks!